Welcome back to more FPL content. This will be the predicted lineups for Game Week 6, and you can see my scoreline predictions on screen. Brentford 1, Manchester United 1, Chelsea 3, Brighton 2, Crystal Palace 1, Liverpool 1, Leeds 0, Bournemouth 1, Manchester City 3, Burnley 0, Nottingham Forest 2, Sunderland 1, Tottenham Hotspur 2, Wolves 0, Aston Villa 1, Fulham 0, Newcastle 1, Arsenal 0, and Everton 2, West Ham 1 on Monday night. And I got a few scoreline predictions correct last week, and I'll be referring to this in the deadline stream tomorrow. This same goes for the top 10 captains, more stats like the clean sheet odds, so you're well prepared for the upcoming deadline as I answer hundreds of your questions. Be sure to stay up to date with my FPL and use your fantasy videos by liking this video, subscribing to my channel, and also hitting that notification bell so you're always getting notifications for those videos and live streams. And stay tuned throughout the season so you're in a great position to win your mini leagues and rise up the rankings. Check all the links in the description for my Patreon and the championships, fair likes to my videos, priority applied to comments, amongst many other perks. My Discord server, the FPL League, and Spotify can also be found in the description. But without further ado, let's jump straight into it. It's worth noting that this podcast is recorded on Friday afternoon, and there are plenty more press conferences that will happen today, and there could be some tweaks and updates to the graphics you see in today's podcast and also in the deadline stream tomorrow. But for Arsenal, I've gone for David Raya in goal, who went up in price recently to 5.6 million, a back four of Jurriën Timber, Saliba, who is set to sign a new contract with the Gunners, and he got an assist in midweek against Port Vale with a man-of-the-match performance. Gabriel and Calafiori complete this defensive line, with Zubimendi, who went up in price overnight to 5.6 million, anchoring that midfield. And I think Martin Odegaard could get a start here because there was a really good positive update there from Mikel Arteta, and he said Martin will be training with us for the next 2 days, so hopefully he will be available for the game. But otherwise, Merino will be in the midfield alongside Rice. I just don't think that midfield three works at all, and I think Arsenal only have one victory out of 11 matches with that midfield three partnership, or at least with Declan Rice and Merino starting together, and ultimately Merino is better off the bench or playing up front, which he did against Port Vale. Saka on the right, he got plenty of minutes in the Carabao Cup midweek, and Eze scored the opening goal and won the Player of the Match award. Victor Gyökeres up front, and I think that is Arsenal's best front three right now. Martinelli and Trossard as impact subs, but if I'm being honest, there might be a hint of what I want to see with Odegaard and Eze playing together. Maybe Arteta will drop one of them, and maybe Odegaard makes way for Merino in the midfield, but that won't work against Newcastle. That's going to be a very tough game for the Gunners, but there's a clear fixture swing in Game Week 7, starting with West Ham at home just before the international break. Next up is Aston Villa, who got a 1-0 victory against Bologna in the Europa League. I think Emi Martinez will start in goal with Cash, Konsa, Mings and Luka Dean completing that defensive line. A few doubts would include Pau Torres over Mings to help up with their build-up play and really help them in possession, and also Maatsen over Luka Dean, but I think they are currently first choice over the secondary options in Torres and Maatsen. Kamara and McGinn in the midfield is quite likely, and Bodegaard has been harshly done by, you could say, because he was fairly decent when called upon. I think Harvey Elliott will finally start in the Premier League for Aston Villa, with Rodgers in the central attacking midfield position, Buendia on the left, and I don't think that will work. And ultimately, they can play Guessan there or Daniel Marlon, but he started up front. And Ollie Watkins will play as the number 9, but he missed a penalty in a short cameo against Bologna, and his confidence is currently through the floor, you could say, or completely down. But I think Watkins will get back to scoring ways very soon. Aston Villa just need to create more chances. Their next 2 fixtures are quite promising because they have a brilliant record against Fulham, who are a tough opposition anyway, and then Burnley at home. So Villa need to get back on track and build upon that momentum from that victory at Villa Park against Bologna, and their European record is quite decent overall. With Bournemouth, there is plenty of team news from Iriola, and he said the following. I think it's a very similar picture to the one we had last week. Enes Unal and Adam Smith are out. Then we have the situation with Lewis Cook. He's still in the same pain in the shoulder. He is training with us, but we have to take a decision. We will have to see today how he trains and see if he can travel with us, or if it's better we leave it until next week. It's a decision we have to take today after training. Everyone else is available, no issues, we are in a good spot. And Diakite made his return last week on the bench, and I think he will enter the starting lineup to partner Marcus Senesi with Petrovic in goal, Hill as the right back, but it could be Jimenez once more, Troffer on the left-hand side with Scott and Adams in central midfield, Semenyo on the right, Brooks on the left, and Tavernier just behind Evanilson. Cliver is also knocking on the door. The same goes for Ryan Christie, and those two were pivotal and crucial to that Bournemouth side last season. Their fixtures remain very decent. Semenyo and Senesi are the standouts from an FPL perspective, and the Cherries are looking solid. With Brentford, they have played a 5-3-2 formation in the last couple of matches, which has meant Dango Ouattara has dropped out of the starting 11, and it could be the case once more against Manchester United in the early kickoff, with Kelleher in goal, Coyote and Lewis Potter as the wing-backs, with Vandenberg, Collins and Pinnock, who scored an own goal against Fulham, completing that back five, with Yarmoliuk, Henderson and Damsgaard in the midfield, Igor Thiago and Kevin Schade up front, and Dango Ouattara could be utilised as an impact sub, and Brentford's fixtures don't look promising whatsoever, with the exception of West Ham away in a couple of weeks' time. We do have some updates from Brighton, and Hurstler said the following: there's some positive news. Mats Vifa is back and the Kuiper will return. Jack Hinchelwood is still out. Overall, some more options regarding our fullbacks, so good news. Gruder recovered this week. He had some days off because of these small issues. He had some treatment, but it changed yesterday, so he will be fine. Minter had some days off to recover. He trained yesterday, so he will be fine as well. So I've gone for Verbruggen in goal, Veltman and Kadioglu as the fullbacks, but don't be surprised to see one of the Kuiper or Vifa start. Van Heck and Dunk would complete this backline, with Baleba and Iyari in the midfield, Minter and Matoma on the wings, and Diego Gomez as the attacking midfielder. He scored 4 goals against Barnsley in the Carabao Cup, and that was a great performance overall, so he could play in that position, with Jorginho Rota playing as the striker, but they also have the possibility of playing Welbeck up front, and then Jorginho Rota in an even deeper position, with the likes of Gruder and Diego Gomez making an impact from the bench. But after that performance, I think Gomez deserves a start, and Brighton are very difficult to predict when it comes to their 11. With Burnley, I think they'll go for a 5-4-1 formation once again, with Dubravka in goal, Walker making his homecoming against Manchester City at the Etihad, Laurent, who is traditionally a midfielder, playing in a deeper position here alongside Esteve and Ekdal. Hartman would complete this back five with Chuana, Cullen, Florentino Luis and Jadon Anthony, who has been a real gem in Fantasy Premier League, and Lau Foster up front. Not too shabby of an option at 5 million, and Burnley's fixtures do turn for the better, starting with Leeds at home in a couple of weeks' time, but up next is Man City away, followed by Aston Villa. That doesn't look too promising, but Burnley have been solid so far this season. Next up is Chelsea, and Enzo Maresca provided plenty of updates, and the most important one, of course, is about Cole Palmer, and he said the following on Friday morning: yes, we decided to protect a little bit Cole by taking him off early at Man United in terms of not letting his injury get worse. We decided to rest him for 2 to 3 weeks until the international break to see if with that rest he can recover 100% and be fit after the international break. And he also discussed how they could adapt without Cole Palmer. We're going to find a different solution without Cole. Last year against Brighton, we had Nicholas Jackson and Mark Guiu out. Neto played as a number 9. He's playing there, doing some good things. We're going to find solutions. It's a bit early to think this will define this season. It's too early. The main things are growing and improving. This is important for me as the manager. And he also provided an update on Tosin Adarabioyo, and he said he's injured. He'll probably be out until the international break. He has a small problem in his calf. Wes Fofana had concussion against Lincoln. The rest are okay. And Robert Sanchez will be another talking point after that red card against Man United, but he's available now for Game Week 6 after serving a 1-game suspension against Lincoln in the Carabao Cup. And Enzo Maresca stated that Sanchez made a mistake at Man United, but we are happy with Robert and Philip Jorgensen, both of them. Not any problem with Robert. Mistakes can happen. It's a quick decision. You say we've conceded 5 goals because of those mistakes, but how many have we saved because of Sanchez? I think many. So I believe Robert Sanchez will start for Chelsea. And in terms of their outfield players, it's between James and Gusto in the right back position, but Gusto played the full 90 in the Carabao Cup, so I've opted for Reece James this time round. Both of them can play simultaneously, with Gusto as the right back and James in the midfield, which pushes Enzo Fernandez a little further forward as the attacking midfielder. But I've gone for Fofana, Chalobah, Cucurella, Enzo Fernandez, Caicedo, and a front four essentially of Neto, Estevao, Garnacho and Joao Pedro. We could see Neto play as the number 9, Joao Pedro as the attacking midfielder, and Estevao on the right. But the Brazilian can also play in that central attacking midfield position, so we could even see Estevao as the attacking midfielder, Neto on the right, and then Joao Pedro in that number 9 position against his former club. So Chelsea still have plenty of options despite missing Cole Palmer and not having other recognised strikers in their team, with Delap injured for the next couple of months. With Crystal Palace, Dean Henderson in goal, a back three of Richards, Lacroix and Gay is extremely likely to say the least. Munoz and Mitchell as the wing-backs, Wharton and Hughes in central midfield. Ismaila Sarr is set to return against Liverpool, and keep your eyes peeled for any updates by Oliver Glasner in that regard. Kamada as the other attacking midfielder or inside forward, and Jean-Philippe Mateta up front. Crystal Palace have tough fixtures up until Gameweek 11, but they're still fairly fixture-proof, and I back them to actually cause Liverpool a few problems this weekend, and we'll talk about Liverpool, of course, very soon. On the other side of Merseyside, we've got Everton, and Jordan Pickford will start in goal with Jake O'Brien, Tarkowski, Keane, and Mikalenko, provided he doesn't get another yellow flag. Idrissa Gana Gay and Garner in the midfield, with Ndai and Grealish on the wings, Dewsbury Hall just behind Beto, and I believe Dewsbury Hall is now 1 yellow card away from suspension because he's got 4 bookings so far this season. So if he picks up that 5th yellow card, then he will miss the next Premier League game. But facing West Ham at home, I think those Everton centre-backs will be targeted. Branthwaite could return fairly soon as well, but if Michael Keane starts, I'd back him to get a massive return there. All he needs is that goal, coupled with a clean sheet, and you could be looking at a monster haul from a 4.5 million defender in that defence. Next up, though, is Fulham, and I've gone for Leno in goal, Tete, Anderson, Bassi and Sessegnon, and Robinson played in midweek in the Carabao Cup in a 1-0 victory where Smith Rowe scored the winner, and I think Sessegnon is currently first choice, with Sandenberg and Lukic in the midfield, Harry Wilson on the right, Iwobi on the left, and King just behind Rodrigo Muniz. I think Kevin picked up a minor problem, so I don't expect him to start anytime soon. And facing Aston Villa away, it's a bit of a bogey team for them, but Fulham are looking good. The same goes for Leeds United, who got a massive victory against Wolves, 3-1 away from home. Darlow will start in goal, and we'll see how long-term the Perry injury will be. Bogle is currently yellow flagged, but if he's ready to start, he will be the main right back for Leeds United, with Rodon, Strauch and Goodmanson in that defensive line. Ampadu, Longstaff and Stack will be the midfield partnership, but Tanaka could also disrupt that sort of balance. He was starting the season, of course, over Longstaff. Aronson on the right-hand side, Okafor on the left, and Dominic Calvert-Lewin up front. If he can build upon that goal that he scored against Wolves, he could turn into a decent asset for the next 4 game weeks as Leeds are top of the FDR. With Liverpool, we got plenty of updates from them, and of course their centre-back Giovanni Leone suffered an ACL injury which was confirmed by Arne Slot, and he also talked about Alexander Isak, who will need to start this game with Ekitike being suspended after picking up a red card against Southampton because he took a shirt off whilst he had a yellow card. It's kind of funny, but I can understand why Liverpool fans and Arne Slot are frustrated. And once again, Arne Slot provided clarity on Isak's fitness and how they're going to manage his load. So he said Isak is able to play minutes again. I still feel that 90 minutes might be a bit too much. It depends on the pace of the game. Not only that, but for the long term, you can give a player one stupid hit to bring him to 90 minutes and then his body is too far over the line. I don't think it's smart to play him 90 minutes yet. He's further into his pre-season now. Normally after 2 or 3 weeks of pre-season, players get to 60 or 70 minutes. Some clubs even bring them to 90. If you look at our pre-season, we only brought them to 60 or 70. So he's essentially telling you Isak is going to play 60 to 70 minutes, and we could see something a little bit different, like Salah playing up front, or even Florian Wirtz, who has played there during his time at Bayer Leverkusen. They've got Chiesa to come on as a super sub. So Liverpool still have plenty of options despite missing Ekitike. That could be quite costly against Crystal Palace, but Isak will start here, and that could be quite intriguing as a 1-week punt. But the Eagles are unbeaten in the last 17 games across all competitions. With Manchester City, we got the big news here. So Erling Haaland's yellow flag will be wiped out, and Pep Guardiola said he's ready. There are pictures of Erling Haaland in training. He's going to start against Burnley. I never had any concerns, as discussed in my team selection podcast, and he provided more team news. Reinier Nuri and Cherki are out. Omar Marmoush and Kusanov no, and Kovacic maybe it would help a lot to have Kovacic back. It's a long injury, surgery, but he is getting ready. He is not fully ready, but step by step. So we could see Kovacic on the bench against Burnley and get some minutes over the coming weeks, and maybe that international break will come at a good time for Man City and Mateo Kovacic. But I'm going for Donnarumma in goal, Mateus Nunes, Ruben Dias, Gavardio and O'Reilly in that defensive line, Rodri, Bernardo Silva, Reinders, Foden and Doku. A few of them have risen in price. In fact, the last 3 players have actually gone up by 0.1 million overnight, and Erling Haaland might even go up to 14.4 million very soon, especially if he bags that brace or hat-trick against Burnley, which I'm expecting. Let's now move on to the next team, though, in Manchester United, and they have made some changes over the last couple of weeks. I think Maguire will start over Yoro once more, with De Ligt and Shaw as the other defenders, Binder in goal, Mazraoui and Dorgu as the wing-backs. Ugarte will replace the suspended Casemiro alongside Bruno Fernandes, with Mbumo, Mateus Cunha and Sesko up front, facing Brentford away next. Then it's Sunderland at home, and afterwards it's Liverpool away. So quite a mixed set of fixtures there for Manchester United, but my favourite options remain Bruno Fernandes and Bryan Mbumo in FPL. With Newcastle, they could go to a 3-4-3 formation, but traditionally under Eddie Howe, they are playing a 4-3-3 formation. Nick Pope in goal, Chow, Botman and Byrne in that defensive line, with Livramento and Hall as the wing-backs, Tonali and Bruno Guimaraes in the midfield, and Joelinton scored a brace in the Carabao Cup, so we could see him start, especially if the two switch to a 4-3-3 once more. Jacob Murphy has had a few injury problems over the last couple of weeks, so they're managing his minutes, but I think he could start. Anthony Gordon returns from suspension alongside his evil twin, Nick Waldemada, who looked decent in the Carabao Cup, but Osula, the backup striker, also scored a brace and looked very impressive in midweek. Now, Eddie Howe provided team news and he said, "We have a couple of players to check today, no major injuries from the game. Jacob Murphy is doing okay. It's an issue we are managing. He is fit and available, but some days he has been sore, so we're just trying to manage his load." That's why Elanga starting is a real possibility on the right-hand side, but I think Newcastle's ideal situation is to have Elanga being brought on as an impact sub with his pace and trickery to cause Arsenal all sorts of problems. Eddie Howe also discussed Jacob Ramsey, and he said his recovery is going well. He is on the grass working hard and building his fitness back up. I think it will be after the international break that we see him. Anything before that, then he will be ahead of schedule. And he talked about Anthony Gordon's return from suspension. It is a big boost for us to have him back fully. He can really focus on the few games we have ahead of the next international break. I thought he was excellent against Bradford. He is a player that rises to the occasion, and we're going to need everyone to do that on Sunday. And Newcastle have a decent record against Arsenal at St James's Park. And over the years, if you look at the Premier League era, Arsenal have done very well against Newcastle, but that has changed in recent seasons, and Eddie Howe deserves massive credit. With Nottingham Forest, they do have an injury doubt in Douglas Luiz, and Igor Jesus scored a brace in the Europa League in that 2-2 draw against Real Betis, so Ange Postecoglou hasn't won a game so far in his Nottingham Forest tenure, but I think that will change this weekend against Sunderland. As good as the Black Cats have been, I do fancy Forest to get a narrow victory, with Sells in goal, Nico Williams, Milenkovic, Morato and Sinchenko. Murillo is still doubtful, but if he's available, he'll be the first choice to partner Milenkovic in that defensive line, with Anderson and Douglas Luiz, who is currently yellow flagged after picking up a knock. He got an assist against Real Betis and was subbed off at half-time. Ndoye and Hudson-Odoi on the wings, Gibbs-White and Chris Wood, but I would not be surprised whatsoever to see Igor Jesus start. He has 4 goals in his last 2 starts against Swansea City and Real Betis, so he's in really promising form, and maybe he's the sort of striker that Ange Postecoglou wants in the long term. But Chris Wood got a full rest against Betis, and with that quick turnaround of 3 days, I think Chris Wood will start against Sunderland at home. Speaking of which, that's the next team covered in this video, with Roofs in goal, and they could easily play Masuaku to replace the suspended Renildo Mandava, who won't be available until the 25th of October, but I have a feeling they're going to play Mukiele as the right back, which he has done over the years for RB Leipzig and Paris Saint-Germain, and Ballard can play in central defence alongside Alderete, and then Hume, who is normally a right back by trade, he can be shifted to the left-hand side, and in this calendar year, I think Hume has played a few games in the Championship based on my research, and I think there's 16 games now throughout his career where he has played on the left-hand side. So that'll be the defensive line for the Black Cats, and that looks very solid considering one of their main players is out through suspension. Siddiqui, Rig and Xhaka would be the midfield partnership with Diarra injured at this moment in time. Talbi and Lefay on the wings, and Isidore has been very impressive for a 5.5 million forward. He's one to keep an eye on, and Sunderland have good fixtures up until Chelsea away around game week 10. So I do like Sunderland's fixtures right now, and I think they can still get some positive results, maybe against Wolves at home, for example. That'll be a very important game for them, and anything they can pick up against Forest and Man United will be a massive bonus. And they've had a great start to the season. They've exceeded all expectations, and their transfer window has been very impressive, to say the least. We're now approaching the last couple of teams in this video. That includes Tottenham Hotspur, and I've gone for Vicario in goal and the back four of Pedro Porro, Romero, Van de Ven and Udogie. It wouldn't surprise me to see Porro benched. He played the full 90 against Doncaster in midweek, so we could see Spence on the right and Udogie on the left, and a midfield partnership of João Paulinho, Pape Matar Sarr and Bergvall with Kudus, Xavi Simons and Richarlison up front. Spurs could even shift formations to a 4-2-3-1, drop one of those central midfielders, play Xavi Simons in the 10 and Brennan Johnson on the left. That's another possibility. I do like these Spurs attackers for the next two game weeks against Wolves at home and Leeds away, but long term I wouldn't recommend that. Richarlison went up in price overnight to 6.8 million and Xavi Simons over the last week or so, but he was benched against Brighton, of course, and it's only one assist so far in his Tottenham career, which came on his debut against West Ham. But I think Spurs will have some interesting options defensively. Romero might be the best long-term with his DEFCON potential. Van de Ven offers the best value at 4.7 million, and Borro has the highest ceiling, but I think there's a chance of rotation in the coming weeks for the Spaniard. With West Ham, I think Magassa should start at some stage, but I'm not sure when that will be. They can play a 4-3-3 or a 4-2-3-1 formation, but Areola will be in goal. He went down in price to 4.3 million. Walker-Peters, Mavropanos, Kilman and Diouf is the likely back four, but even introducing Igor Julio could really help them in terms of dealing with the set-piece threat because they have really struggled from those situations. Ward-Prowse and Matheus Fernandes in the midfield. Bowen, Lucas Paqueta, Somerville and Wilson is a probable attacking line, but even one of them could be benched, and we could see Matheus Fernandes on the left-hand side and Somerville drop to the bench there, and then Magassa can offer some solidity into the midfield because West Ham have been terrible defensively, especially from those set pieces. And the last team is Wolves. This is by far the worst I've done in terms of any of the predictions. So the numbers you see just above the crest, and when it says out of 55, that's the amount I've gotten correct in my predicted lineup so far this season. Jose Sarr in goal, Agbadu, Krejci and Totti Gomez in that defensive line, Chowana and also Hugo Bueno as the wing-backs, João Gomez and Andre, who is currently yellow flagged. He had a knock after that 2-0 victory against Everton in the Carabao Cup. Menetzi scored in that game, Bellegarde could start, and then Tolu up front. But Strand Larsen is available, and many predicted lineups do have Strand Larsen starting, but I think he'll be used as an impact sub against Tottenham. He did score against them last season. The same goes for Hwang Hee-chan. So Wolves have plenty of options in those attacking positions. There's also Arias, who did fairly well actually against Everton, and ultimately they could just do absolutely anything. If Andre is injured, they could play Krejci in his position and then introduce another centre-back like Santiago Bueno, for example, who started against Everton as well, and Johnston played very well against the Toffees, so it wouldn't surprise me to see them introduce a very similar team to that 2-0 victory, and it was a different formation, so don't be surprised to see Vitor Pereira change things up a little bit like Graham Potter did a few weeks ago, from a 3-4-3 formation essentially to a 4-2-3-1. That is a real possibility, and we saw something very different in midweek, and that's where Wolves got a very important result against Everton. So let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. Which players you think will start that I haven't mentioned today or that aren't in these predicted lineups at this moment in time. And keep your eyes peeled for tomorrow's deadline stream with the updated lineups, team news, injury updates, and much more as I answer all your questions. There are more press conferences and updates happening as we speak, and Arteta said the following on Bukayo Saka and Madueke. Nothing to report there. He played the game we anticipated in the Carabao Cup. He played well and is training for the next 2 days. There is no update on Noni Madueke just yet. And of course, I covered the recent updates and reports of Madueke missing the next 6 to 8 weeks with an MCL injury. So that's a massive blow for the Gunners. But luckily, if we can look at the bright side, he avoided an ACL injury. And I'm going over any Arsenal players in my FPL challenge squad. I'll be locking in this team and my FPL squad in tomorrow's deadline stream. I've got Vicario in goal, Tarkowski as my only defender, Salah and Semenyo in the midfield, and Joao Pedro is the only player who is aged 23 or under, because any players who meet that quota will score double the number of points, and Erling Haaland is my captain. He is no longer yellow flagged, he's ready to play against Burnley, and I think he could score a brace or a hat-trick. This is the best triple captaincy opportunity in the first half of the season from my perspective when it comes to the lack of rotation. I expect Haaland to get the full 90 minutes here. He's in great form, and as good as Burnley have been recently, I still think Man City have their number with 10 consecutive victories against the Clarets. Thank you very much for watching this video and listening to this podcast. If you enjoyed it or found it insightful, then like this video, subscribe to my channel, and also hit the notification bell so you're always up to date with my content, both FPL and UCL Fantasy. Stay tuned for the return of the Champions League this weekend. There'll be a best limitless and wildcard squad, my team selection, and a deadline stream next Tuesday. Follow me on X, Instagram, and Blue Sky, DylanRCM, and check all the links in the description for my Patreon and the championships, further access to my videos, amongst many other perks. My Discord server, the FPL League, and Spotify can also be found in the description. Our aim will be to get this to over 100 likes on YouTube. It'd be greatly appreciated. And a massive shout out to all the patrons, members, super chatters, subscribers, and those that have gifted memberships over the last couple of months. We are pushing towards new goals like 37 subscribers, and over the last couple of weeks, we have hit over 2,000 subs on YouTube. I'll see you tomorrow for that FPL deadline stream, and the same goes for UCL Fantasy next Tuesday.